So good of you to be mostly ready for bed. Clearly, you have not fallen asleep yet. This is okay. This is okay. Sometimes I too, in the great Edna mode, I too have struggled at times to fall asleep. Now, first and foremost, have you prepared yourself for bed? In other words, have you been a productive person today? Have you been bold? Have you been expressive? Have you put forth great ideas? Challenged the status quo? Have you gone forth and planted your flag? Well, maybe not all of those things. That is quite a tall order. If you do even one of those in a day, that's pretty good. I do like these mugs. When I was younger, my tea was never hot enough. I was constantly having to warm it back up. But now, there's a little battery on the bottom and a little built-in heater. And now my tea stays nice and warm and toasty for me, which I find very nice. Now, you did not come here. Well, I came here, but I did not come here to talk about my tea, darling, although it is delicious. I came to talk about you and hear about your day and what you got, what you learned about in school, what the best part of the school was, what you are looking forward to tomorrow, for tomorrow is another day. That's the thing that's interesting about life, darling, you know. No matter what happens today, there's always tomorrow. And usually, tomorrow comes. I suppose for all of us, there will be the day where tomorrow doesn't come. But that is not something that you and I have to worry about right now, darling. No. 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 We will plan for the future. It is like, I do not know who said this, but 'tis better to be an optimist and wrong than a pessimist and right. Do you know what these mean? Do you know what these words are? Well, an optimist, have you ever heard of this phrase? Viewing the world with the glasses half full or the glasses half empty. You will notice that in either situation, you are correct. The measurement of liquid, water, tea, coffee, whatever, the measurement is the same within the glass. However, how we perceive this measurement, it turns out, has a great deal of influence on our experience of being alive. Much more than we may care to admit. It is interesting how many people I meet live very mundane lives, and they are not very happy with them. And this is the case amongst all walks of life, darling. Wait a minute. Before I go too far, did you brush your teeth? Give me the smell check. Give me the go. Oh, good. Minty fresh. Very nice. Okay. You have some water. Good. Don't drink that right now. If you drink water now, you'll have to go pee in the middle of the night, and that's very frustrating. I don't like having to go pee in the middle of the night. I like to get a full 8 hours. Then why am I drinking tea? Now, this is a good question. It is because I am not going to bed right now. I'll be going to bed in several hours. I still have some things I would like to do, some books I would like to read, maybe meditate. I'm unsure. Maybe get some work done. I don't know, darling. But it is a good idea not to drink too much right before you go to bed. But this is a lesson you will also have to learn for yourself. It's kind of like the old, you tell a baby not to touch a hot stove. And the reality is, what did you do? You touched the hot stove and got burnt. And most people, in fact, almost everybody, has to touch the hot stove. And there was no real shortcut for this. For I can tell you many things. I can pass on loads of advice. Mistakes that I have made. Things I've done right that led to great outcomes. Things that I have done wrong that led to not so great outcomes. But either way, they are really things that you will have to discover on your own. And so much of life, it turns out, is that way. It is a real trial and error. And there is no way of skipping the trial or the error. So, kind of getting back to what I was saying earlier about people and how many people live very sad, quiet lives. It is because many people feel trapped. Many people feel this term railroaded. You understand this term? Well, you know how when we go to you've walked on the train tracks with me. And when you notice that the tracks, they are immovable, right? The train cannot deviate from the tracks. So this term, railroaded, is like you are forced into the situation. You're feeling forced down a specific path. And the reality is that many people in life feel like they are being forced down paths they did not choose. But this does not have to be your fate or anybody's fate. The beauty of youth is that youth represents potential. You know this word, potential. Potential is what could be, what can be, what might be. When an adult like myself sees a young person like you, all I see is potential. I see potential for greatness. I see potential for malice. It's a fancy word for not good things, for bad things. Malice. It's a good word. You should learn it. You should use it. Vocabulary is important. So, we can either have potential for greatness, which we all do. Potential for malice, bad things, being evil or wicked, which we all do. Nobody is immune from this. But potential is a wonderful thing. It is hope. It is being able to dream. And unfortunately, there are many people who feel that they are stuck on a path, on a journey. It's funny, with human psychology, there's a thing called the 7-year itch. Have you heard of this? What this is, for reasons I honestly do not know, about every 7 years, humans tend to want to change things up. And I can even apply this from a young age onward. For example, between the ages of 0 and 7, a young person is discovering everything is brand new. You know, you saw it, everything was, you remember being 4 or 5 years old, and the summer was endless. The adventures were all new and fresh. The first time you saw this, the first time you saw that. Okay, and then you get to be about 7 years old, and then between 7 and 14 years old, it's a very big change. Around 12, you start hitting puberty, and all of a sudden, the things that you thought were the most important in your life, your parents, your aunties, they become less important. And you decide that you need to become more independent. And this is very, very important. It's very important that you go through this phase, this separation phase, from your parents, from your aunties, from anybody that you enjoy time with. You have to go find your own mark on the world. Become an individual. It's very important. So from 14 to 21, it's major time things. You'll go to high school, college, maybe graduate college, maybe you don't go to school, maybe you go out into the workforce, whatever. But you get to be 21, and now maybe you have your first really big romantic relationship. Maybe you fall in love for the first time. You travel maybe, go do something. And for the next 7 years until you're 28, you have many adventures. Maybe even start your first career. Who knows? And then you're 28 to 35. You start to maybe settle down. Maybe you meet a life partner, maybe not. Maybe you decide to start a family, maybe not. But many people around the age of 35 often have a sense of unease. And there's a thing called a midlife crisis, which usually happens around 37, 38, 39, or 40. And this is when people look back on their lives up to then. Many people look back on their lives and they go, what have I done? Is this what I meant to do? What am I doing with myself? It's fascinating. The 7-year itch. I forget why I was talking about that. It doesn't matter. Again, me pontificating about life will have very little actual impact on your behaviors, darling. Regardless of what I say, for the most part, you are going to do what you want to do, honey boo boo. You will do you, honey boo boo. And it is very important that you do this. It is important that you listen and maybe take in my words. But it is more important that you simply know that I love you, that I care deeply about you, that I trust you, that I have your best interest in mind, and that I give you the freedom to make mistakes. This is very important. It's very important that you know you are allowed to make mistakes. This is how we learn. There's a fun phrase, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. Right? That's a bit of a play on words. That instead of saying sometimes you win, Sometimes you lose, which is also true. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. I like this reframe because we often learn much, much more from the things that we fail at, from the mistakes that we made. I remember my father told me a story about his business partner. They started a company together, and it was, I believe, it was the second or third company my father had tried to begin. And if you may recall, my father was in the Air Force. And he got out of the Air Force and he goes into the private sector and he starts working for a company. And then he eventually works for another company. And then they try to start their own company. And like most people starting out their first company, that company failed. Not the right group of people together at the top, basically. Not the right management. So he started another company with another business partner who he talked about, and before they started their own company, back when he was being hired, he had a very interesting way of interviewing for a job. When he interviewed for a job, they would say, maybe they ask you the question, okay, why should I hire you? Why should I hire you for this job? And his answer was, because I failed 3 times. Here, here, and here. So I know what not to do. And he got hired. Of course, eventually he became his own boss. But there is some great wisdom in this. You have to be afraid. You have to be willing, darling, and not be afraid to go and be bold. So the main important thing that I can help encourage you is that it is never too late to start over. It is never too late to go after something that you love. There are many tales of people who have huge career changes later in life. Even me, darling. I did not always start off as a designer. No. No, I thought I wanted to be a writer, a journalist. No, I was very into politics, and I wanted to make a difference, and I wanted to fight the system and fight the man, and make up for the injustices in the world. And I was out there on the front lines trying to make a difference. And it was out there that I realized what I really had a love for was design. I discovered this when I went to Italy for the first time. Rome, Torino, Sicily. There is something about the Italians, Venice, Florence. They have a deep love of design, darling. And I fell in love. I fell in love with the culture, the cultura, the expression, that the self-expression of humanity, the exaltedness of the Greek and the Roman gods, the beauty for beauty's sake. I found it very inspiring. And this led me down to a road of design and fashion, but also down a road of exalted design. Design that inspires people. Designs that when you see, you feel uplifted in the spirit. It was for me so much the opposite of like the Puritans and the Quakers and and the conservatism, which was very much like demure and downplayed and boring and humdrum and ho-hum. And when I was around creativity and beauty for beauty's sake, when I went to the Cathedral of Saint Pietro, the dome, and the statues and the artwork of the Renaissance and the great Michelangelos and the Raphaels and the Leonardo da Vinci's, the bold inventors. These were people that inspired me, that made me want to create and be exultant in the world, darling. And so this is what I did. So I had a major career change in my late 20s and early 30s. And at the same time, I do not regret who I was as a young lady. It was very fun. I traveled. I saw many cultures. I met many people. And I was surprised to learn that everywhere I went, the vast majority of people were the same. They had simple wants, simple desires. They wanted a warm meal with their family, their children to be safe, their children to have education. They wanted a roof over their heads. Simple pleasures are universal. In most places I went, everybody was very kind and generous. It was only when you got out on the bigger scale of like such and such government here and such government there that things got murky and weird. But on the individual level, the small group level, my experience of being out in the world was that people are beautiful. But anyway, I've been rambling for a long time. Hopefully I make you sleepy. Are you getting sleepy? Okay. Okay, darling, well, it is time now for you to close your eyes. Close your eyes, darlings. And I give you the sleepy fingers. Sleepy fingers, close your eyes, darling. I give you the sleepy fingers. It is time for you to sleep so that you can rest. And tomorrow, you will have the energy for adventure, to be bold, to be creative, to be expressive, not focusing on being impressive. No. Focusing on being expressive, darling. Being vibrant, courageous, funny, smart, beautiful. All of the things that you are right now. You get to be all of that again tomorrow. Until then, darling, sweet dreams. Auntie Edna loves you. I look forward to hearing about your adventures tomorrow.